Hello, today we are painting a deer with acrylic paints. You will need a large and a medium flat brush and a small round brush for details. I'm using an 8 by 10 inch canvas panel, but any canvas around this size will work. You'll need a paint palette, a washcloth or paper towel, and a cup for water. As far as acrylic paints go, you will need black and white, blue and green, and brown. This is a chestnut. It's a warmer shade of brown. It's a little bit light. So try to get some sort of warmer colored brown as opposed to something that's a bit cooler and darker like this one. And as far as your blue paint goes, you want to either have a light blue like this, where it's a really light blue, or you can use your regular blue and mix a bunch of white in there for your background. We just want to have a nice light blue sky so that all the colors of the deer will be really easy to paint on top of it. It's a little bit harder to paint on a darker background. So we're going to get this started with that background by painting blue all over the top, and then we're going to paint green at the bottom for some grass for our deer to stand on. I should also mention that having a hair dryer so that you can dry these layers in between will help a lot. After we paint the background, we're going to use the hair dryer and get completely dry before we move on to the next step. You can still follow along if you don't have a hair dryer. You just have to wait for everything to dry in between those layers. So we're going to get that blue paint and our large flat brush, and we're going to start off by painting a little guideline here. Right about 3/4 of the way down the canvas. And that's going to be where the sky meets the ground. In painting, that's called the horizon line. Smooth the paint out, and then I'm going to fill everything in on this top part. Alrighty. Once that whole top section is nice and blue and you don't see any of that background peeping through anymore, you're gonna rinse that paintbrush. And then I'm gonna get my green paint and paint that bottom section. Oops. Made a nice straight line there and immediately messed it up. How does that? That's usually how it goes, huh? All right. Just gonna make sure I use up all my paint here. All right, now once that bottom section is completely green, we're done with this paintbrush and we can wash it. Make sure it's super good and clean, and then put it to the side because we do not need it anymore for this painting. Now we'll get the hair dryer and dry this whole layer off. now that that is dry, I'm going to get my brown paint. I'm going to make a pile of brown. I'll make a pile of white. Ooh, that's a little bit too much white, but it's all right. And I'll get just a little dash of black paint as well. Now we're going to get our medium flat brush. And just with your finger, go ahead and find the very middle of the canvas, right here. We're gonna take a moment to kind of get an idea, just with our eyes, of how big we want the deer to be. The head's probably gonna be about right here. The body's here. We wanna make it so that the legs will just go right over that green. Okay, so get an idea of how big you want it to be. I'm gonna take this medium flat brush. I'm going to start off by making a dot right there in that center. Okay. Now, to the left of that dot, I'm going to start with one circle. Keeping it kind of small to start. So you got your dot in the middle, a circle to the right of it. You're going to go back to the left over here, and we're going to paint another circle. Keep these small now, okay? So this is roughly the front of the deer, roughly the back, and now I'm going to paint a line coming up from this circle right about here, and I'm going to paint a circle for the head right on top of that line. Make sure you leave plenty of room in front for the nose of your deer. All right. Now this is giving us a better idea of how big our deer will be. You can go from this circle, paint a line straight down into the grass. And I'm going to paint one more right where this line meets the body, straight out. Just touching the top of the grass there. And then from the back, right off the back of this circle, I'm going to come straight down, right into the grass. Just a little bit. And then we'll paint the second leg in the back once we get this a little bit more figured out. This just gives us an idea of, okay, these legs are looking a little bit long for how big the body is right now. So I'm going to make the body bigger, make these circles bigger. And it just gives us a good standpoint on where to go for the rest of the painting. So we have all these lines done. We're going to paint a line here to connect these two circles, just going down and then back up to this front circle, filling the middle section in, go across the bottom to connect the circles there. I'm going to make this neck bigger, painting a line next to it on both sides. And then I'm going to come around the back of the head, down, connecting this head more fluidly to the body there. In the front, it's going to come down and then out and curve back into that chest. All right, we're going to bring the back up. All right. I think we need a little bit more here in the front. And I'm going to add the snout here, bringing this face out just a little bit, back in. It's still looking pretty basic right now and rough, but I promise by the time we're done with this, we're gonna get this shape right. Now there's too much going on here, so I'm gonna connect this with a straight line and then bring it up right like that. Okay, and now let's adjust these legs. This back leg needs to be wider at the top, so we're gonna come in with a diagonal line. A little more. Then it's gonna curve right here to make a knee. I'm gonna bring it out in the back and down. Okay. The second leg is gonna come straight down right next to this one, just connecting it straight into the green. And when we add the details next, it'll make it so that you can tell those legs apart. But for now, we're just gonna leave them the way they are. So now with this front leg, we can make it wider as well at the top. Right here, we're gonna have a little, I'm gonna call it an elbow, but I don't know if you would call it an elbow on a deer or even a knee. Either way, a little deer knee, and then the leg's gonna come down into the grass. And this back leg, widen it at the top, and down, give it a little bit of a knee, thinner at the bottom. All right, now step back, look at your deer, kind of get a good idea of how big everything is. If you could make it bigger, we might make him a little bit bigger, but I guess this is a female deer, so we could make her a little bit bigger. We're gonna do that just by going around, just slightly increasing the size of the lines. We'll do the ears with a smaller paintbrush, so don't worry about those for right now. Bring out the chest a little bit more. Just making little adjustments and smoothing out all the lines, making sure it's nice and solidly brown. And bring that all throughout the deer. Okay, just put this aside for 1 second. I'm gonna get my small round brush and paint those ears in. So one on this side, coming up and down, out, up. One ear, and then on this side, again, it's just a curved line, another curved line. All right. I'm gonna keep this brush at the ready, my medium flat brush, but I'm gonna come in here with this small round brush and do some details. I thought I was gonna use this brush and that's why I left it there, but we'll see if we need it. Let's keep it on the side for now, and let's use the small round brush and let's add some shadows into our deer. So we're gonna define these legs and add some details by making a slightly darker shade of brown, mixing a little bit of black into our brown, just a little bit. You don't want it to be very different, just a little darker. And then I'm going to take this darker shade and I'm going to go along the line of this leg here, right where this back leg falls behind it. And I'm going to paint that darker brown into this back leg. Same thing with this one right here. Go along the line of this front leg and then filling in this back leg with this darker brown. You can also add a little bit underneath where the chin would be. And mixing it into that lighter brown while it's still wet is going to get it to blend super nice. Blend in there a whole bunch, okay? Oh, we need a tail too. Using the lighter brown, I'm going to come out the back here and come out a little bit. We'll add some white on there to make it a white-tailed deer when we get to that point. All right, I think that will probably be good for shadows. So we're going to move on and do some highlights now using a lighter shade of brown. So you can rinse that off your brush and then come in here and grab a little bit of white, mixing the white with the brown now. And again, you don't want it to be a lot lighter, just a nice subtle difference. So it's just a little bit lighter than the brown we were using. I'm going to bring it into the leg here, on the front leg this time. And I'm just pulling that paint in. I'm going to blend whatever's left on my brush in up here. And then before this dries, I come back, now that there's less paint on my brush, and I'm blending it out. All right. Same thing with this front leg. I'm going to come along that line, pull it into the leg, wipe off the extra up here at this shoulder, adding a little bit of highlight up there too. Blend, blend, blend all the way out. And in the face now, along that jaw. And I'm just going to blend that all into the face. Gonna add a little bit more right here in the shoulder, bringing that forward. And along the top of the back. A little bit more right in this section too for this part of the leg, just bringing that forward even more. The tail. All right, now we are going to work on the front of the deer, add a little bit of white in for the chest. So I'm going to rinse my brush and get my white paint. It's okay if I have a little bit of that brown still on my brush, because I kind of want it to be, I want it to be white, but just a little bit brown. So just off white a little bit. I'm going to bring this in, blend it right into this chest part. Right up to underneath the chin. And down, blend it. If it blends with your brown, that's okay. I'm going to wipe the extra paint off my brush and blend that in. Let's dry this off really quick, and then we're going to add a little more. Let's do that one more time. Just get a little bit more of this color. Oop, it's a little too much. And just pull it through there. Adding a little bit in the tail too, just on the end. Now I want to rinse my brush, and I'm going to get some pure white. Make sure there's no extra water on there. And some pure white paint. I'm going to bring that in, place it right here for the eye. Okay. I just realized that I forgot something. So with that clean brush, get your darker brown, and in the ears, we're going to put this darker brown in the bottom half of the ear and add just a tiny little bit of the lighter brown along the top. Perfect. All right. Now let's get our black paint. And with that black paint, I'm going to paint some feet on our deer, starting with this back one here. Just a little line across. I keep getting too much water on my brush. That's always a problem because you'll drip a drop of water and then your paint will just bleed out onto the rest of your painting. So it's really important that you don't have water dripping off your brush when you come in to paint something. So I'm adding a little square at the bottom of the foot, and I'm going to bring it out just a little bit in the front. So you see this little square, and then I come out with a little bit of a slanted line in the front. I just do that on all the feet. Okay, now I'm going to take that black, and in the nose, I'm going to come in diagonal, curl down. Fill that in with the black. And we're going to immediately, not even rinsing the brush or anything, just dipping it in some white and blending that white right into that nose. You want to have just enough so when we paint the nostrils, you can still see them. A little more. I think that's pretty good. You don't want it to be too light either, because you still want it to look like a black nose. All right. I'm going to dry off the eye and the nose really quick before we add these last details. Okay, so I'm grabbing my black paint. Just do a little circle right in the eye. And then a little curled line in the nose and another one right next to it. You could add a little smile for a mouth or leave it blank. That's up to you. All right. Now this would be an adult deer because there's no spots on the back, but I'm going to come in here with some white. Oh, make sure your brush is clean and dry. I'm going to come in with some white in the tail and in the chest, and then I'm going to add a few spots on the back if you want to paint more of a baby deer or a young deer, more likely. So we're going to get that white, a little bit of brown, and just coming in. Put some spots on the back. Okay. Rinse my brush. There's one more thing I need to do, and that is dry that eye. And I'm gonna drop in one little dot of white right into the eye. Oh my goodness. I guess the theme of this video today is don't put too much water on your paintbrush when you come to put paint on your canvas. You need to make sure that your brush, I don't know how many times I need to say it before I'll listen to myself. You need to make sure there's no water on your paintbrush before you come in and paint. All right, there's our little dot in the eye, and that will complete our deer painting today. Please join me again for one of my future videos. I had just painted a buck last, and we'll be doing some more woodland creatures amongst many, many other themes and categories. I would love for you to come and paint with me again. And until that point, I hope you have a great rest of your day and that you take care. Bye-bye.